Hey guys, so I was gonna record the Sadako video today, but I'm really feeling sick, guys. I've got a really sore throat and my head is all kinds of stopped up. So instead, I wanted to just kind of just talk with you a little bit. Wanted to share some thoughts of mine. I'll try to keep this brief, but it came to mind today. I want to talk about my hero, the hero that I created. For my story, The Tale of Tomoki. And many of you probably don't know what that is. In fact, many of you probably saw the title of this video, watched the first few seconds here, and just said, nope, I'm done. I understand that. But for those of you who are interested, I invite you to just bear with me as I just talk to you a little bit about my character, Tomoki, and what I did to create him. Because when I created Tomoki, I didn't intend this, but I have found over time that how I wrote Tomoki, while not perfect by any stretch, oh no, his story is very flawed. It's one of my earliest story attempts. But I feel like it does so much more than what I've seen out of modern superhero comics. Let me explain what I mean. For those who don't know, Tomoki is a Saiyan. Yes, a Dragon Ball Z Saiyan. This was kind of my own personal fan fiction, alternate universe kind of thing. Don't worry, no other Dragon Ball Z characters show up. I mean, one other Saiyan shows up, but he's not a named character from Dragon Ball Z. It's my own story all the way through. I just use the element of a Saiyan for the purposes of the story. And I recognize now that was probably weak of me. You know, I'm just going to borrow a pre-existing race and use it as my hero. You know, I shouldn't have done that. But, you know, c'est la vie. You live and learn. My point being, Tomoki was a Saiyan raised in an alternate version of Earth. His mother, or the woman who raised him anyway, a human woman who found him and raised him named Belle, wanted him to become better than just a mere murderer like the Saiyans were, and tried to teach him the right path. He didn't really click with it until the day that he was jumped by these thugs who had power armor, like really specialized equipment to take him down, and Belle died trying to protect him. And this pushed Tomoki over the edge to become a Super Saiyan. And I could do a whole video talking about my philosophy on how he became Super Saiyan and what the rules are to becoming Super Saiyan, but that's not why we're here. Through that, Tomoki finally had his Peter Parker moment, you know, his desire to make things right. You know, he realized, I have a responsibility to the power I have. I need to learn how to control it. I need to learn how to use it right. So he seeks out a wise martial arts master who named Hayato, who takes him on a pilgrimage to learn to control his powers, to control his abilities, and basically practice martial discipline. After 3 years, he comes back, only to find that the city that he left behind has now changed in a dramatic way. Because of the events that happened 3 years ago, when he displayed his true power to the world, the city and all the cities surrounding it, their gangs, their criminal overlords, and even their law enforcement, have all started adopting metahuman and superhuman soldiers to use in their fights, like cyborgs, mutants, super soldiers, demi-humans, anything they can to kind of give them a leg up over each other, which has led to huge, massive levels of destruction whenever gang wars break out. Tomoki now sees his opportunity. This is my chance to make things right. If I'm the one who accidentally led to all this through my actions, then I'm going to make it right. I'm going to put an end to these gang wars. And the whole first part of his story, because his story is broken into 3 acts, the whole first part of his story is working alongside the police chief and his daughter, Victoria, to find ways to put an end to the gang war. And he ends up fighting one of the main leaders of a gang named Mamaragan, who is this guy with lightning powers. And it turns into an absolute throwdown where he and the gang leader, Mamaragan, duke it out in a large cornfield, which levels the entire farm. But it also taught Tomoki some degree of control. This arc, his whole point was to teach him some control, because he learned, my power's great, but I don't just have a responsibility to do good with it. I have a responsibility to be careful with it. Because in one of his fights, he got a little cocky, he got a little arrogant, and he decided to show off just how strong he was by going Super Saiyan and beating his enemy to a pulp. But in doing so, the backlash of his own Super Saiyan aura hurt the police officers who were around him to support him, and he realized, oh crap, I could actually hurt people. So he's having to learn not only to use his power well, but to be careful with it. And I feel like that's something that I never thought about it at the time, but I don't see that often in stories anymore, you know? it's funny, in a lot of superhero stories, we just assume that the fights are going to take place away from civilians or in places where there's not going to be a lot of civilian interference. I mean, think about the Power Rangers. Don't they always end up fighting in these vacant lots where they can afford to go to town with giant robots and crush each other? Don't they ever start to think, what if there are people in this town who could get hurt by that? Aren't there civilians who could be hurt or crushed by all that fighting? In superhero stories, yeah, we see superheroes saving people, but what happens when the supervillain decides to hurt people, or when your own power hurts people? Like, I liked it that in The Incredibles, when Bob jumps to save that guy who is jumping to his death, he ends up breaking his neck, and the guy was upset because he broke his neck and cost him tons of money in medical bills when all he wanted to do was die. So, it's really interesting when you can explore stuff like that, but I just don't see that in comics anymore. But the real thing that bothered me was, with Act 2 of Tomoki, we explore a new level of Tomoki's life. Victoria, the daughter of the police chief, starts to fall in love with Tomoki, and he with her, but Tomoki doesn't know how to feel about that. He's like, I've never experienced romance, I've never had to deal with girls before, I don't know how to deal with romance. I wanted to play with the idea of a solid, wholesome relationship in writing. One thing that I've noticed, and I actually thought about this last night when I saw this announcement about this new Amazing Spider-Man reboot, where apparently Mary Jane Watson is not only broken up with Peter, or is a will she won't she relationship with Peter, but she's also with a guy, apparently has been sleeping with him and has 2 kids with him, which implies that she's been with this guy for a couple of years since the kids call her mommy. They're old enough to speak and walk around on their own. So it's like, how long has she been with this guy? Was she screwing someone other than Peter? You know, that kind of thing. And I thought, and it hit me, comics are not good at writing wholesome relationships. They're not good at writing meaningful, lasting relationships. And I didn't think about this when I was writing Tomoki, but I realized that as I was writing Tomoki, Victoria and Tomoki's relationship became very wholesome. True, Victoria didn't have the same powers as Tomoki. She couldn't do all the same things he could. But she still wanted to be involved with him. She still wanted to be involved in his life, help him where she could. Even when Tomoki kind of said, there's nothing you can do to help me, she goes, that doesn't change the fact that I want to be there, you know. I thought that when I wrote Victoria, I wrote her as a strong woman, not because she can kick people's butts, but because she was willing to stand by the man she loved or cared about, regardless. In fact, there was this one bit that I really liked. Okay, so basically, in part 2 of Tomoki, this other Saiyan appears named Griff, who is very much like Vegeta, you know, because I'm a Saiyan elite, I can do whatever I feel like. And Tomoki is not his match. Tomoki gets his butt kicked by him soundly. So he doesn't see Tomoki as worth the effort of fighting, so he leaves him alone, wanting Tomoki to stew in the reality that he's too weak to do anything, while Griff goes around on Earth looking for new people to fight. Meanwhile, because Griff has shown up, a group of intergalactic bounty hunters have shown up looking for Griff, and they find Tomoki and decide, another Saiyan tail to add to the collection, we'll take him out too. Tomoki does manage to fend them off a little bit, but they're still really strong. So what they decide to do is they decide to hit him where it hurts. While Tomoki is going to the school dance with Victoria, he doesn't really attend school, but she does, and she invited him, and he likes her, so he wants to try to be there for her, even though he doesn't feel comfortable in social settings. They go to this dance, but then the galactic bounty hunters attack at the dance, and while he tries to hold off their leader, Victoria tries to evacuate everyone. Once everyone's evacuated, she runs in to try to tell Tomoki that they're all okay and wants to see if there's more she can do to help. And the two clash, and the explosion of force knocks Victoria backward, and she hits her back really hard and slumps to the floor. Tomoki loses his mind when he sees this, breaks off the fight immediately, grabs her, and flies away to get her to a hospital. And then after dropping her off in the hospital, he has a moment of pure blinding rage, and he goes after the bounty hunters. When he finds them, he goes Super Saiyan almost from the offset, which blows their mind because they didn't know the Super Saiyan myth was real. And he kills them. All of them. Like, he uses a technique that he knew was forbidden, that I designed myself. It's actually not something from any of the mangas or anime of Dragon Ball. But he uses a technique that he knew was forbidden, and levels part of a city block to kill them. And this actually really affects Tomoki. He feels guilty for doing it. He feels guilty for killing them. He feels guilty for going so far. And he confesses to Belle, I killed them. And Belle is beside herself. She doesn't just go, oh, it's okay, sweetie. No, she gets mad. She says, why? Why would you do that? Like, you were better than that. You never had to kill other people. That's their thing. That's not yours. You're the one who always held back. You're the one who cared more about saving people than killing people. And he tries to argue, they hurt you. And she argues back, I'm always going to get hurt. That's just reality, I'm going to get hurt. You can't change yourself because of what happens to me. And Tomoki makes the argument, maybe you shouldn't be around me then, because you're just going to keep getting hurt, and I don't want you to keep getting hurt. And she says, maybe I'm willing to take those blows. And to me, I really liked writing those scenes. I really liked writing these conversations between the two because it was doing something that I really wanted to see. It's something that I look for in writing relationships. And yeah, call me old-fashioned, sure. Sorry, call me old-fashioned for sure. But it's this idea that the two complete each other. The two genuinely care so much about each other, they are willing to take that risk for each other. Tomoki is trying so hard to hold himself back for the sake of other people. He is afraid of the potential damage he could do to others if he really let himself go. And through killing the bounty hunters, he now sees just how far he could go, and he's afraid of it. And he's afraid of what it could do to Victoria if she's around him. And Victoria argues, you're better than those things, and I'm not afraid of you. I want to be with you. And he argues, but you will get hurt again if you're with me. And she goes, I'm prepared for that. Just as long as you don't change, as long as you're still you at the end of the day, I want to be with you. And God, I love writing that. The relationship progresses further in the story to the point that an enemy, his final enemy in the final act, tries to use her against him. He basically takes a piece of a soul crystal, a tool that he has, and when he puts it into a living being, that living being can be manipulated and controlled by him. They'll do whatever he says. They gain a small piece of his power, so they become somewhat more powerful. And he cannot die until they die. It's kind of like a Horcrux from Harry Potter. If you want to kill him, you got to destroy the person carrying the soul crystal. And he puts one in Victoria to use her to hold off Tomoki, because he knows Tomoki is not going to want to kill Victoria. He's either going to kill Victoria and become heartbroken, or he's going to hold back and be killed. Those are the only two ways that'll happen. And Tomoki has to make that ultimate decision, And he does. He delivers a death blow to Victoria. And just like his mother, she dies in his arms. And it crushes him. It crushes him. He loses it. But in doing so, his rage reaches peak. He finally stops holding back. Because remember, Victoria is kind of his anchor. She's the thing that holds him together. When she died, he loses all sense of control and goes Super Saiyan 2. And Boalok was not expecting that. The demon that did all this, Boalok was not expecting that. And he starts getting his butt trounced by Super Saiyan 2 Tomoki, who wants to kill him again. But right as he's about to kill him, something amazing happens. It turns out his killing blow doesn't work. Boalok is still alive. Tomoki doesn't realize this because of his rage, but his allies, the people who are working with Tomoki, realize this might mean Victoria is still alive. And it's revealed at the end that she was alive. Though Tomoki had struck her with what looked like a death blow, he had held himself back unconsciously. He had been training himself throughout his story so much to teach himself to hold back his power, to not kill with his power, that unconsciously, even though he thought he killed her, he had held that back just enough to let her live. Showing that Tomoki has grown so much better at controlling himself through his series. So at the end of the story, when Tomoki finds out that she's okay, when he wakes up from his own coma after the fight, he stumbles his way into embracing her. He stumbles his way into holding her. I really, really threw myself into writing that relationship and making it good. Making it not just good, but meaningful. I noticed that one of the major problems I see in a comic book or superhero writing today is they don't handle relationships very well. I think I said that, yeah, but it just shocks me because I didn't think about Tomaki and Victoria's relationship when I first wrote it. And I'm not saying it's perfect. It's cheesy in a lot of areas, and it's not always well written. I think I could have done better. I think there were lots of things that I could have made better about the relationship, but it's just something that I wanted to talk about because, you know, I'm sick right now and I can't do a whole lot towards other content. I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on this. I feel like, and don't ask me the secret. Oh, what's your secret for making a good, wholesome relationship? I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a relationship I wanted to see. It's a relationship I thought made sense for these two characters. Maybe it's a relationship I want, you know, as someone who genuinely wants a woman who is going to believe in me despite the mistakes I make and stand by me because she wants to see me reach my potential, not because she just wants something from me. Victoria never demanded anything of Tomoki more than just time, you know, just time to spend with her, allowing him to let her into her life, you know, and Tomoki had to learn to do that while also holding himself back. She wanted to see Tomoki reach his full zenith, his full potential, and she was willing to walk him there, to hold his hand along the way, willing to take the risk of being hurt. I mean, I don't want to make this sound like, oh, well, it's okay to help the bad boys, right? Like, I know I can find good in him, Dad. I'm not saying that it's good to have an abusive relationship. What I'm saying is Tomoki wasn't out trying to hurt her or anybody. She knew that he just needed to learn control and needed to learn to reach what he needed to. And I think that's something we don't see a lot in superhero stories. Like, there are so many stories about Mary Jane wanting to break up with Peter because he won't give up being a hero for her. Or there are moments where Batman can't get a relationship because he's just too brooding to make time for a relationship. Like moments where heroes just say, I can't have a relationship because I'm too angsty, or I can't have a relationship because you won't understand. Or the other person in the relationship, not the hero, just saying, I can't be with you because you're a hero and that means you put other people before me. I'm like, come on. Victoria understood the score, you know? She knew Tomoki would have to make sacrifices to save the city. She knew she'd have to make sacrifices to be with him, but the two were willing to make those sacrifices because they both cared about each other so much. They both loved each other. I think that's one of the strongest things about the Tale of Tomoki, at least from my perspective of writing it. I'll put a link to read the whole story in the description so that y'all can check it out if you want, but I just kind of wanted to share this with you guys. I'm pretty sure most of y'all won't care. It's fine if you don't. I just wanted to share this with you guys, especially when I learned about that whole thing this morning about Mary Jane Watson in the newest reboot of Amazing Spider-Man apparently having a side husband or boyfriend with 2 kids. It stunned me. I was like, I feel like superhero relationships and marriages and spouses and dating, I think it can be handled well. No one wants to handle it well. It's like they can't write these things without writing broken or dysfunctional relationships where it's a will they, won't they. Maybe just a thought, guys, maybe you could write them as a solid relationship. I would really like to see a story where a hero puts everything on the line for the city and he has the full support of the people who love him. And when they put themselves on the line for their dreams and their goals, they are there for them, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm an old-fashioned dreamer. I've always said that I'm like a 50-year-old in a 29-year-old body. I believe in these old-school prudish ideas. Maybe that's why I'll never be a super popular content creator like some of these others, because I believe in old-fashioned ideals, old-fashioned beliefs, and I stand by them in my writing and in my content. So, I don't know what that says about me. I hope it says something good, and I hope it means that y'all respect me for it. If not, oh well, you know, worse things can happen. But in any case, I need to I need to go back to bed. My head's swimming. I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care.